Welcome, everyone. It's great to see you. I'm Dr. Katie Woodley. Thanks for your patience and getting the right links. We've had some technical issues recently, so I am so excited to find that people are jumping in. You found the right link, and I am really excited about this topic that we're talking about tonight and wherever you're joining us from. So I want to hear where all you beautiful, amazing people are joining me live. Shout it out in the comment section and in that chat box. Where are you coming from? What pets do you have? What are their names? What are you why are you here learning more about what's going on with your pets? I want to hear from all of you. So I'm looking for the chat. Let's see, everyone. So drop a comment in that chat. I just want to make sure you can hear me, that everyone can hear what I'm saying. So if that's, let me know. Perfect. Okay, I think I had a bit of a delay. So perfect. Elizabeth, Dexter's our giant baby's name. We're from Chicago. Love it. Michelle, happy to be here from Woodstock, Illinois. 15 rescue dogs and a tripod cat. Oh, Michelle, you're a saint. I'm so glad to have you here. Nicole, it's good to see you. Virginia from Canberra. I have an Aussie bulldog. Perfect. Cindy, coming from Portland, Maine. Natalie from Jacksonville, my cats Charlotte and Lucy love holistic living. Nadia from Edmonton, Alberta. Love my Scotty so much. Wonderful, Nadia. I'm so grateful that you're here. Joanna, it's great to see you. You're here from Connecticut, 2 dogs. This is great. Thanks for sharing, everyone. So as you jump in, we're just giving people a few minutes to figure out the link situation that we had. Elizabeth, we're trying to change our dog's diet because we found out he has cancer. I'm so sorry, Elizabeth. I can definitely relate with that. I'm going to give you some good tips and resources. So make sure you have a pen and paper handy because you will be getting some information on how to handle that. Butch, the farm in Oklahoma, 6 dogs, 4 cats. We used to live on a lifestyle property in New Zealand, and I absolutely miss that compared to living in suburbia. So I can relate. Liesel, Edmonton, my Havanese pup, Lily. Janine, New Zealand. Oh, Janine, I went to vet school in New Zealand. I miss it so much. My amazing husband's from there. 2 Parson Jack Russells. Wonderful. Awesome. You're going to learn a little bit more about me. If you're not familiar with who I am, you might see a cat come and go and behind me. We've got 3 little black cats running around. And you'll learn a little bit more about them because all of my pets have played a part to coming where I am now. Tony, it's great to see you. Tony from Alabama. Yes, your cat Colt. We're trying to transition from canned to freeze dried raw. Yes, Tony, I'm so glad you made it. Rachel, 8 cats, 7 are seniors. Wow. Terry, 2 dogs, 9-month-old Cocker Spaniel, 2-year-old miniature Schnauzer. Oh, Susie. Yay, Susie, you made it in Northern Colorado. Susie's in my backyard and I see Scooter and Natasha and her little Daisy cat. I'm so glad you're on here. Gudrun, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 14-year-old Chihuahua, digestive issues, 8-year-old Pit who has itchy skin. Stephanie, hey, Dr. Katie. Oh, Stephanie, it's Nala and Grace's mom. Wonderful. Stephanie, it's so good to see you. I love seeing people I'm currently working with and seeing all the new faces on here. Robin, Ontario, senior dogs rock. They totally do. So you'll see that's my dog Finn in the picture there. And he was a senior German Shepherd and he was just amazing. So Patricia Jones, it's Patty in Arizona. It's so good to see you, Patricia. All right, everyone. I hope you're as excited as I am because I just love talking about holistic medicine. I love talking about how we can help our pets live a longer, more vibrant life. And so for today, we're going to go through some of our top natural ways to help your cat and dog live longer. So let's get started. All right. First, I always ask, why is this information important? And every single person here is here for a different reason. However, there's some similar information you need to be aware of that could be impacting your pets. We know that disease is unfortunately rising. So cancer is the leading cause. I'm just going to make sure real quick. Okay, we're recording. Perfect. We've had some technical issues. So let's repeat that and take a step back. All right. So we know disease is rising. Cancer is the leading cause of death in 47% of dogs. And I believe that's actually a little bit higher. The last statistic I saw was 2 in 3 dogs. 32% of cats, according to the Veterinary Cancer Society. So 1 in 3 dogs and cats are now overweight. There's been a significant increase in allergies. Some of the people here, I know you're dealing with those allergies. You have a pet that's been diagnosed with cancer. And we know osteoarthritis has been on the rise for over the past 10 years, with a 66% increase in dogs and 150% increase in cats. Now, what do these diseases all have in common? And there's one element we can always bring it back down to, and that's inflammation. So my question is why are we seeing so much inflammation in our pets? We know that we're being exposed to over 85,000 toxins a year, and they're making even more chemicals, even as we speak, that we're going to be exposed to. So this is a chronic inflammatory state trigger. It's one of the many we're going to talk about. Ironically, today, so at the time of this webinar, there's another review on Seresto pet collars. So they should be banned because of all the health issues that they're causing. They've harmed over 900 people. We also know there's a huge issue with isosazolazine, flea and tick preventatives. So these are things like Bravecto and NexGard, and lots of pets are being harmed. I've worked with many people that their pets have been harmed or have even been killed by these products. These are creating inflammation in our pets' bodies. And then today, Fresh Pet put out a recall. They've been recalled numerous times. This is just another one of the ways that we see our pet food industry. There's a lot of areas of concern. And I shared these gruesome pictures, and I apologize if it's dinner time or someone's eating right now, but unfortunately, many veterinarians and many pet parents aren't familiar with the pet food industry and the sourcing of the poor quality ingredients. And this is where these pet foods are being made from. Meats that are sitting out in the sun, that are being fed on by rats and birds, that are diseased, dead, dying carcasses that weren't good enough to go into the human industry. This is what's being fed to our pets, and it's only one component of the pet food that's creating a huge issue. So I want to know, who here's heard about some of these issues that have been going on with our pets? I know a lot of pet parents here are very familiar with them, but I also want to know, are you familiar with this? I'm seeing people raising their hands, and I'm so glad you're here, because when we know more, we can always do better. So I want to ask you, what is the cost to you to stay stuck in the same spot? And I see this over and over and over again in our industry, whether it's veterinarians, whether it's pet parents, where we get stuck in the same way. And we're like, I just don't know. Maybe I feel confused. And you get stuck. And then you don't make that forward progress. And you get really confused and you don't know what to do, right? So unfortunately, most pet parents, most are stuck in that vicious cycle of the same health problems. Maybe you're giving a drug expecting the problem to be fixed, but their pets only feel better for days or maybe months, but those same issues keep coming back. Do you feel like you're stuck on that treadmill right now? Now, when we switch to this holistic side of medicine, so the holistic pet parents, this is where the game changes, because now you can feel confident that the root cause is being addressed to clear the problem, achieve optimal health, and you have the tools to balance and maintain a healthy state without relying on numerous vet visits for the same problem, because we're looking for the root cause. This is a very different concept most pet parents aren't used to in human health and in animal health. So let's talk a little bit about those differences between conventional medicine and holistic medicine. And for conventional medicine, what we're doing is we have a pill for every ill. Who here has heard of that statement before? What we're doing is we're treating symptoms. It's good for acute or ER situations. However, here's the problem. It's not fixing the root cause, because we're not taught to look for the root cause. And unfortunately, these medications, or even on the pet side, the food that we're feeding, can come with a lot of really adverse side effects. Now, on the other side, we have holistic medicine, where we're taking a whole approach to everything that can impact health. So we're looking at the body as a whole, and once again, how it's all interconnected. So what we're doing is we're finding and treating the root issues. So it's really good for prevention. Who here wants that, right? For our pets to like live to 20, 30 years old, to never really feel sick, feel really good until their day comes, right? We all want that for ourselves and for our pets. But the problem is that sometimes it can take longer to see results. And as a society, we're trained, we're ingrained, unless you've been through similar health journeys that I have been through, or you've had a pet get sick and you've been forced to see a different way. We're used to wanting to see results right away. And this is the downside with holistic medicine, is that sometimes it requires that patience. Now, when we look at holistic definition, I love this definition of holistic medicine because it sums it up so beautifully, where we're taking the treatment of the whole pet. So we're looking at the emotional, the environmental, the nutritional, the physical factors, that every single piece of those will play a part rather than just the symptoms of the disease. So by the end of this webinar, I'm going to show you why holistic medicine is the key to your pets living longer with optimal health. But I'm sure right now you can already see that, right? Just this brief glimpse into how we approach the body from either a Western medicine or conventional medicine approach to the holistic or Eastern medicine approach, right? Who here agrees with that? So what I do is I take it back to those 5 pillars to achieving optimal health. It seems really simple, right? And sometimes it can be, but also sometimes it can feel pretty overwhelming if you're not sure where to start, where to turn, what to start implementing for your dog and cat. So we're going to go through this webinar and show you how they're all interconnected, so you can start taking those next steps to help improve your pet's longevity. So we're going to be touching on gut health and nutrition and how it's connected to immune health, how environmental health plays a part, especially with emotional health and the physical health, and connect them all together to give you a plan. And the strategy we're going to be breaking down for you into 3 parts so that you can create longevity for your dogs and your cats. And keep in mind, a lot of these principles can be applied to your own health to help improve your own health, are going to be reducing toxins, improving nutrition and gut health, supporting a healthy environment, which of course, all of these lead to a reduction in that inflammation that's at the root cause of all these diseases that we're trying to fix or prevent in the first place, and that are going to support the overall body that leads to longevity. This is cats in their 30s, dogs in their 20s. So this is going to be a value-packed webinar. So right now, I'm going to ask you to turn off all distractions if you can. Make sure you have some pen and paper or whatever to take notes on, and get ready. So I want to start though, make sure you're in the right place as we go through this, because if you're here and you're ready for a change in your pet's care, you're in the right place. If you know there's a better way to achieve optimal health, but maybe you're feeling overwhelmed by where to start, you're in the right place. If you're frustrated and tired of all the vet visits and bills that don't give you progress, you're in the right place. If you want to know that you're doing everything possible to help your pet live a long and vibrant life, you're in the right place. If you want a supportive community to help guide you on the right path, you're in the right place. And if you're curious about different ways to achieve health in your fur family, so maybe you're not aware of holistic health, but you know there's got to be a better way to do things, you're in the right place. So let's talk about, maybe you're kind of hesitant, right? You're like, I don't know about this. This seems kind of crazy. So you may not be ready for this if you still want those quick fixes and you don't really care about finding the root cause. You don't have time to take the action. You think you already know everything about pet medicine. You think kibble diets are the best food for your pet. You only believe there's one way to look at health. Or you get mad when I give you 45 minutes of strategy and go through a Q&A session that's helped hundreds of pets and then complain when I make you an offer for an exclusive opportunity to work with me. So I'm being super transparent because I will be inviting you at the end to apply for our Blueprint program. So I want you to be aware of that and get prepped for it because I love this program. I'm so excited and I want to see if it's a good fit, since my sole mission on this planet is to make sure you have the tools and the tactics and the support to help yourself and your fur family live their best life. So you don't have to make the same mistakes that led me to holistic medicine in the first place. All right. So I want you to stay till the end for the Q&A. But before we dive into the tactics, we're going to go through a little history on what qualifies me to deliver this life-changing information. But first, if you're ready and excited, I want to see that thumbs up in the chat box, because once again, I'm so excited to talk about this topic and hear from you guys and know that you're as excited as I am to learn a little bit more about how you can help your pets. All right, I see you guys. I love it. So let's get going. Let's jump into a little bit about me and what qualifies me. Nicole, I love it. I love the strong arm. This is perfect. All right. So I started my veterinary career as a young, naive veterinarian in New Zealand. I actually thought that using those big brand kibble foods were the best for my pets, making sure I did all those dewormers, all the vaccines, all the things I learned about in vet school, right? Thought I was being amazing by following it to a T. So I thought I was doing everything right until my husband developed an autoimmune disorder. So at the start of 2014, and it changed how I looked at medicine. I'll never forget sitting across from the doctor, hearing the words, "There's nothing more you can do." Not being able to do what we always used to do, spending time in the hospital and never getting a clear path forward. However, this is where everything changed. I started learning more about an entirely different world of medicine that focused on the root cause versus symptomatic care. And I quickly realized that I could be doing so much better for my patients. Here I was telling my clients the same thing that we had from our human doctor, saying there's nothing more you can do. And I realized there's a different way. So I became acupuncture, Chinese herbal medicine certified, but I quickly came up against other vets in my practice not liking the type of medicine I practiced because they didn't believe in holistic medicine. Maybe you've had this from your vet, right? Oh, that's just woo-woo. There's no science behind it. And so many people are probably here because they're experiencing that right now with your own vets. I want to see who here is currently dealing with that or has dealt with that before. Hearing that what you're doing is not right may cause harm or won't make a difference. And here the thing is I was seeing amazing results. I knew we were doing something right. My patients were healing, and so was my husband, Ryan. I loved the new path I was on. So I created my own business, The Natural Pet Doctor, so I could focus solely on holistic medicine and integrate my conventional knowledge because I knew I could make a difference based on how my husband was healing and seeing the difference in my own patients. But the universe has ways of testing us, right? And we were tested again. My soul pup started having seizures and we diagnosed a brain tumor. So Finn was changed to a home-cooked diet. Years prior, we put him on herbs to help him. We even avoided 2 knee surgeries, and he was a 75-pound German Shepherd. But here's the worst part. Conventional medicine has a place, right? I'm not against it when we use it appropriately. But when we put him on the conventional drugs to reduce the brain swelling and stop the seizures, he did not do well with the conventional meds. And we were told by the specialists there was nothing else to try, and he probably had a week left. So maybe you've been there too. Hearing there's nothing else you can do, being told that raw food's going to kill your pet, spending hundreds or even thousands on problems that keep recurring. Maybe you've been laughed at by the veterinarian or had eyes rolled at you, worrying about your pets getting sick, staying up with them all night long because you're worried, or you've stayed up for hours on end researching, trying to find the answer to help your pet feel better. Was I the only one that's ever experienced this? Here's the thing though, there was something else we could do for Finn, and that was holistic medicine. We were actually able to give him another amazing year of life with great quality of life. No one knew he had a brain tumor when there was nothing left for us on the conventional medicine side. So Finn actually helped me realize even more so that pet parents are being told every day there's nothing else you can do, or to just wait and see, when there's actually an entire other world of medicine that you can actually tap into. And the best part is I realized that I could help more people by teaching people online how I helped Finn when he was given a week to live. My husband's life has changed dramatically, especially from that day in the hospital with holistic medicine, when we were told there's nothing more you can do other than strong drugs that come with serious side effects. But by realizing there's this blueprint for achieving optimal health, I was able to turn my years of holistic pet experience into a program that breaks it down for you into easy to implement steps. And the results are amazing and help pets live longer with more vibrant life. So are you ready to learn more? All right, let's get into it. So once again, though, I want you to go back to thinking about where you currently are. I want you to think about how you feel when you look at your pets, if they have illness, or maybe you've been like me, where you've lost a pet to cancer or some other chronic illness, and you don't want to go back. You don't want to make the same mistakes again, right? So what's the cost to you if you stay in the same spot? It's like being that ostrich with the head in the sand, right? You feel paralyzed. You don't know what to do, but don't worry. I'm here to help. And I'm going to give you some tactics that truly changed my life. So these are just a few amazing results that we've been able to get for pets across the world. One of our amazing clients, Dr. Katie's amazing. She's compassionate, very knowledgeable, holistic Western medicine, continues to strive for the best through education and experience. So Dr. Katie treats every one of her patients like her own pet. And Dr. Katie's helped my 11-and-a-half-year-old Dane with arthritis, another one at 7 years old with a pulled muscle, 2 puppies, one with chronic UTI, and another with immune issues. I'm happy to say the amount of improvement or the non-existence of issues through herbs, acupuncture, and diet has been achievable through Dr. Katie. Also, another wonderful, amazing pet parent that we've partnered with. I could not be any happier to find Dr. Katie. She's been a blessing to the health of my 2 dogs. I highly recommend her, extremely knowledgeable in food and supplements. And one more, I highly recommend Dr. Katie Woodley. I've been working with her since last year. She's very knowledgeable in all aspects of animal care, not to mention super friendly. She's made a positive difference in my dog's life. Now, we've been able to help a lot of pets overcome allergies, liver disease, IBD, many other diseases, increase remission times with cancer, get off their prescription diets, prevent disease in the first place, help the pets feel their best, reduce your vet bills and visits, and help pet parents feel confident and supported with holistic pet care by following these principles that we use over and over and over again to help our pets feel their best. So are you ready to do the same? All right, I need a ready in the chat. And keep in mind, by having this blueprint at your fingertips, imagine where your pet's health could be in 1 year's time. So I want you to consider this your fast pass. All right, Natalie, I see so ready. All right, Elizabeth, Stephanie, Nicole, Rachel, Terry, I love it. Janine, all right, let's get going. Gudrun, ready? Perfect. I love you. You are the reason why I do this and why I love it so much. All right, number 1, step 1, the general overview that we want to be looking at and assessing our environment is how do we reduce toxins? So we're going to be assessing your pet's food, the environment, and other areas so that you can reduce inflammation and help prevent disease in your pet's lifelong. Now we're going to go to this analogy, to talk about why is this so important. And the thing is that we don't always see the inflammation that's at the root of all these health issues until it gets to a point where we see symptoms and it causes that disease we can name. So it's essentially like a forest fire where we put it out, but there could still be flames brewing in the underbrush, right? That we don't know it's there until we add in a wind. And all of a sudden, those flames pick back up, and now it's burned down the forest. And this can happen with our pets, where there's this chronic inflammation, maybe from food toxin, an inflammatory ingredient, or they're being exposed to a pesticide and they seem fine. You'd say, yeah, they're healthy. I don't need to change anything. They seem like they're doing fine. And then we add in, say, a heartworm preventative, or our pets get stressed. And all of a sudden, it's like that wind coming in and it's creating and fanning that fire again. So I want you to think about this, because toxins we don't usually see, they're invisible. And so the purpose is to create an awareness so then we know better and we can do better. So some of the sources of toxins that you are being exposed to, that your pets are being exposed to, can be internally produced, so naturally by your pet. So through digestion, through metabolism, we can actually get inflammatory mediators that are being produced. So if we think about leaky gut, which we'll talk more about in the next section, and we talk about how the gut's metabolizing food and how we're producing hormones and things like that, we can actually have this inflammation, this low-grade chronic inflammatory state. And if our bodies and our pets' bodies are not strong enough to deal with that and put out those flames, that acute inflammation now turns into chronic. And then we have a whole host of issues. So this is where stress can play a part, infections, chronic allergies, and then we have external sources of toxins. So this is going to be more of exposures in the environment, where we have the air. We're all breathing in the air. We all need oxygen. Right now, we currently have a lot of forest fires and there's a lot of smoke in the air. Unfortunately, that smoke's going to contain a lot of carcinogens. There can also be pesticides. You have a neighbor that sprays their yard with glyphosate or Roundup. Unfortunately, that's going to blow into our yard. The water we're drinking can have contaminants and chemicals, carcinogenic products. The food, drugs, even just looking at the environmental factors, body products. Who here has a cat that will sit behind them on the couch and lick their head? I don't know if I'm the only one that has that, where they'll sit there and they'll lick your hair, right? Or Tico, one of our kitty cats, loves like licking my legs. So what if I was using products that had a lot of chemicals in them? He's ingesting them. This is also where looking at cleaning products in your environment, heavy metals, plastics, all of these are going to build up potentially in the system that can lead to problems if we're not optimizing our pets' overall health. Now, these are some of the consequences of those toxins building up. And together, these toxins can really take a toll on your pet's body. They can lead to things like cellular dysfunction, where the cells aren't working properly. That can lead to subsequent chronic illness. It can block energy production, insulin function, toxin metabolism, thyroid hormone imbalances, and a tendency towards being overweight and that chronic inflammatory state. So this is where we start seeing those symptoms of that low-grade chronic inflammation, where now, boom, symptoms appeared. Maybe we have a disease like diabetes, heart disease, we might have inflammatory bowel disease, cancer, allergies, autoimmune disease, altered brain function, which can lead to behavior problems. So now you can see where toxins are very important to think about. And just because we're not seeing a symptom doesn't mean that there's this low-grade chronic inflammatory state going on in your pet's body. And I also want you to know that toxins can actually affect 3 generations through epigenetic changes. So what that means is toxins can actually affect the way genes are expressed. So if I were to have a baby, that baby could actually be affected by the toxins that were in my body. But then when that baby gets old enough and they have their own daughter or son, that baby could actually be affected by the toxins I had. And there's numerous studies that show this. This is why it's so important. Obviously, a lot of our pets are spayed and neutered and they're not producing offspring. But this is something to be aware of for yourself, because when we clean up the environment, it's going to help your dogs and cats, but it's also going to help yourself. One of the big areas that a lot of people don't realize is a huge issue, and thankfully it's getting more people talking about it, more awareness around it, but glyphosate exposure. So this is like your Roundup, your herbicide. And the average American has actually seen a 38 times increase in glyphosate in the past 20 years. It's everywhere. It's in 70% of our drinking water. It's in 75% of air and rain. So anytime it rains, unfortunately, we're being exposed to this. And this is where it's in every single herbicide, pesticide that you're using, that you can buy over the counter. And the problem is that our pets are also being exposed to this. There are high concentrations in their food, and dogs actually have the highest levels measured in any animal. And we can reduce that by feeding a more species appropriate, less processed diet, and studies show that. So we're going to talk about that. That way you can start changing that if you're not already feeding those types of foods. But unfortunately, dogs are getting a significant exposure from the environment as well. And when you think about it, many dogs actually spend quite a bit of time outside. They're walking, they're playing, they're rolling in the grass and the lawns, you're going to the park, and other areas that are unfortunately being sprayed with Roundup and similar weed killers. So this can actually add up to a lot of skin and contact exposure. And think about your pets too, especially your dogs. They've got their nose down to the ground and they're sniffing. So they're getting a higher level of the sinus and inhalation exposure of these chemicals. The National Cancer Institute has actually reported that dogs are twice as likely to develop lymphoma if Roundup is applied on their properties 4 or more times a year. So you may not be applying this, but your neighbor may be, or maybe you have the city spraying. Unfortunately, I live in a town that does this. And this is a picture of my Finn and my Stanley at our old apartment complex we used to live in. And they had a ton of spraying. And Stanley, my little gray kitty, passed away from aggressive GI lymphoma, and Finn died from a brain tumor. Of course, we can't say that it's a direct correlation, but of course I have my suspicions. And this is why this type of exposure is so important to recognize. So if you can assess your risk of toxin exposure, you can then help support their body by supporting detox pathways. One of the other areas too that's a huge issue is those isosazolazine flea and tick preventatives. Everyone is afraid of flea and ticks. And of course, Lyme disease, there's a huge concern. But this newer class of drugs is really bad. It's a known neurotoxin. And supposedly it was said to us by the FDA that it doesn't affect the pet. It only works on the nervous system of the insects. And unfortunately, we found that it works on both. So we see behavior changes, we see seizures, we see liver disease. I've seen patients die from this, and it can be one dose or it can be after the 10th dose. There are so many natural alternatives that we can use to help repel insects versus using an insecticide that's really harmful. And a lot of these products, as you saw at the beginning with the Seresto potential recall, we have humans that are being affected that aren't supposed to be touching this. So why are we using this in our pets who are more sensitive and building up more toxins? Especially you can see the glyphosate, it's a lot higher. So now we're having this compounding factor, right? And say your pet's being exposed to glyphosate, and then we add in a dose of Bravecto, and bam, that fire starts. And we see something really serious like seizures, liver disease, or even death. And then we have pet food ingredients. So this is something to keep in mind. And we're going to talk about looking at the labels of the pet food, because these can increase inflammation in the body by affecting gut health. Remember, everything is interconnected. Gut health is not separate from immune health. The environment is going to impact the way gut health is, the way the immune system is. It's going to affect emotional health. Emotional health is going to impact this. They all have a place. But glyphosate we just talked about, and this is a huge issue. We're going to talk more about it. However, there's a lot of foods, especially the heavily processed foods, that have lectins. And these are proteins in plants that act as a defense mechanism against predators. And these lectins, unfortunately, they attack the inner lining of the gut and they create inflammation and the leaky gut we're going to talk about. So beans, peas, Soybeans, lentils, and other legumes are notorious for having the highest lectin content. Also, dogs tend to be gluten sensitive. They don't need grains. They don't need gluten. I know there's a lot of misconceptions around that. When we're feeding highly processed kibble diets too, a lot of these have aflatoxins or mycotoxins from moldy corn that's being used too. And then of course, most pets cannot tolerate your normal dairy, your cow's milk. Now, raw goat's milk is a little bit different. It's seen differently in the body, but your typical pasteurized cow's milk, most pets they're lactose intolerant. So when we remove these, we're reducing the amount of inflammation that's in the body, and we can help them heal or keep them healthy. And this slide you can go back to. You'll be getting a recording of the webinar. These are legal ingredients in pet food, because this industry, the pet food industry, is one of the most dysregulated, not healthy industries out there. There's a lot of shady things that are happening, unfortunately. And these are just some of the ingredients you want to be looking for when you go through your pet's ingredient list on the back of the bag, on the can, whatever you're feeding. If you see these, this is why you want to limit them. So go back through these. There's a lot here. Ones like preservatives, ethoxyquin, propylene glycol. This is where if you're looking for, you see meat byproduct and it's not labeled as chicken byproduct, we have no idea what type of meat it is. And of course, our byproducts are not bad. That can be organ meats are technically a byproduct. But unfortunately, these companies aren't using good quality ingredients. They're also using diseased ingredients, and they're also not typically using your organ meat byproducts. They're adding in things like your chicken feet, the beaks, the feathers, the things that are going to have lower nutritional content. So keep that in mind when you're looking at pet food. And there's some really good companies, and don't worry, I will give you some of the recommendations I have currently as of this recording. Now, keys to reducing toxins, right? What are the things we need to be looking at? Okay, we become aware of where they're coming from. So there's a lot of different factors. Now we know, okay, let's take a look at what's going on in our environments. We also need to make sure we're ensuring that there's enough nutrients necessary for these detox pathways in our pet's body to be operating optimally. We need to reduce chemicals, pesticides, inflammatory foods, vaccines that can be stimulating the immune system and aggravating the immune system. We need to be looking at repairing the gut, especially if we have pets that are sensitive or have been exposed to increased toxins or inflammatory foods. Once again, recognizing where those toxins are, removing them, and using clean water. So filtering the water, you can go to the EWG website and actually look up your zip code in the US, so the Environmental Working Group, and you can actually see what's in your drinking water to give you an idea of how bad it is. And then what we can do too is, and most pet parents don't realize this, is we can detox on a regular basis. This is not a heavy detox. This is using things like greens and chlorophyll, using binders like humic and fulvic acid and clinophthalate to help bind to those toxins and remove them from the body. We should not be seeing detox reactions if we're doing this appropriately, and we're making sure that the nutrition is appropriate too. So going back to this, we're talking about environmental health, right? Those toxins. But once again, now you're starting to see where those toxins can leak in and affect immune health. Gut health is closely connected to emotional health because of the vagus nerve in the brain. We can see how physical health can be impacted if our pets don't feel good because they have a lot of inflammation in their body because there's a lot of toxins that aren't being released and processed out of the body. They're not going to feel good. They're going to age faster because of that low-grade chronic inflammatory state. So my first exercise I want you to do is I want you to write down sources of potential toxins in your home environment. This is meant to get you to start thinking like, okay, we actually use this. Maybe we need to look at using a cleaner alternative, or we're currently feeding some of these foods. Okay, let's write it down so we know that on these next few parts, we can take action and change them. So cleaning products, the garden, toys that you're using, the food you're feeding. And what I want you to do is make a list of maybe 3 to 5. You don't have to go crazy. If you want to go crazy, you can, but I don't want this to be an overwhelming exercise. But I want you to put a number next to each one, ranking them in order of getting rid of them. So say you're using glyphosate, that'd be number 1. Say you're using a cleaning product that has a lot of chemicals in it. Okay, that's the most important. So whatever's most important to you. And then I want you to put a date next to it when you want to make the change. This can be a slow change over time, or it can be like, yeah, we're throwing this away tonight and we're starting with something different. But by doing that, though, you're committing, you're taking that next step to help your pets and help yourself. Because remember, this will help your own health. That's the beautiful part of a holistic approach. It affects everything that is surrounded in that pet's environment. So I want you to drop a comment on what you're taking your first step on, because I want to cheer you on. And I know other people too may feel stuck, right? I'm not sure. This makes me a little uncomfortable. But by seeing other people say like, yeah, my God, I need to clean up the cleaning products, or I need to clean up the pet food, or I need to remove the pesticides or the herbicides. There's no shame. I love it. Natalie, Clorox wipes in the cat's area. Perfect. And there, I need a better water source. So Berkey water filters are great, Amy. So just drop it, because drop the comment below, because so many people get stuck and then you get paralyzed and we don't take action and then we stay stuck in the same place. So thank you for sharing your comments. I love seeing that. I'm cheering you on, and I know you're going to make a huge difference in your pet's health. All right, let's go to the next step. This is a big one. Pat, I love it. Check toys, get rid of plastic bowls. Perfect. I love it. I love seeing that. You guys are amazing. Awesome. Okay. Step 2 in this general overview of how we can help our pets have increased lifespans. We can look at improving nutrition and gut health. So we can build a healthy food bowl so that you're supporting optimal gut health that leads to longevity. Now, here's the thing. To be well on the outside, you must begin by healing the inside. And this is really important. And once again, it goes back to what I was saying. We don't always see the symptoms until it's too late. And we saw this with my husband developing an autoimmune disease. We saw it with our pets developing cancer. You don't want to wait to start taking the actions. And Hippocrates, I love this quote because it's so right. The father of medicine, all disease begins in the gut. And we know that optimal gut health means that we have optimal digestion, absorption, assimilation of the food into the body. And when we don't have that, then we can start seeing some of these diseases. And so diseases that seem unrelated to the gut are usually actually caused by a gut health problem. So why is nutrition so important? Well, food is the foundation for health. And unfortunately, very little nutritional education while at vet school. Pets are put on kibble, processed food diets. That's unfortunately what we are taught. But everything's tied to gut health. And if the food that's going into our pets is not optimal, this can lead to disease, shorter lifespans, and more vet bills over the life of your pet. So 80% of the immune system's in the gut. So now we're closely seeing and starting to see more how intimately connected all these pieces to the puzzle are to achieve optimal health. And here's the thing, our dogs and cats have zero requirements for carbohydrates. So when we think about kibble or highly processed foods, we know that most of them are over 60% carbohydrate. So just a little bit of food for thought there. And what affects gut health? So when you think about your pets and they're going through their life and the amount of exposure they're getting to all these different categories, once again, it can add up. And here's the thing, when we look at what's going to affect gut health, of course, diet, so the nutrition, environmental toxins. We know that glyphosate directly impacts the Shigella pathway and the good bacteria in the gut. We don't want the gut bacteria dying. We need that microbiome. We need a healthy gut microbiome. We also know that stress, emotional health, here it is, that stress can directly cause inflammation or leaky gut. And thank goodness, we're starting to get more and more studies. So more and more veterinarians, more and more health professionals are going to have to wake up if they already haven't and start making changes. And a lot of these studies are showing that raw-fed animals compared to kibble-fed animals have a healthier microbiome. They're less prone to diseases like hip dysplasia. We're seeing that there's less inflammatory mediators and markers in blood work when they're on a less processed diet. So super exciting things that are coming out, which thank goodness. Now, how do you know if your pet has a gut health problem, right? What are some unhealthy gut signs? These are going to be things like weight loss, dull hair coat, autoimmune disease, allergies, sensitive GI tract, dental disease, bad breath, even with clean teeth. Who here has ever had that? And you're like, there's no dental disease. What's going on? Inflammation, ear infections, anxiety, behavior issues, thyroid issues. So a lot of these seem completely unrelated, right? But here's what's going on. This is leaky gut syndrome. And what can happen, especially as our pets are being exposed to those toxins, to foods that create inflammation. Our gut lining is one cell thick. Thank goodness it does a pretty decent job most of the time. However, it can be very sensitive to these toxins and inflammatory foods. And we know that 80% of the immune system sitting in there monitoring for pathogens, invaders, trying to keep it out of the circulatory system so that we don't mount an inappropriate immune response and get a ton of inflammation that then shows up on the outside as ear infections, anal gland problems, chewing and licking at the paws. So leaky gut is when those tight junctions between those one cell thick layer start getting inflamed. They start spreading apart, and it allows toxins, food, and bacteria to pass through from the inside of the gut where it should be and should stay into the rest of the body. And then the body goes, wait a second, this shouldn't be here. And it mounts an immune response. And we have all these inflammatory mediators, and we have major issues then. So that's this premise of the leaky gut. You've probably heard about it, or on the human side, it's getting a lot more press, but it's creating a lot of these health issues because there's toxins, because there's inappropriate diet, because there's unmanaged stress. And it's leading to symptoms that seem completely unrelated, and it might be keeping you on that vicious treadmill, right? We're going to the vet over and over again for the same problem because we're treating symptoms versus the actual issue, the root cause. So I want to check in with you. Do any of your pets, your dogs, your cats, have any of those symptoms? Itchy skin, ear infections, sensitive GI tract, behavior problems. They have some anxiety. Do they have anal gland problems? Do they have thyroid issues? Are they prone to being overweight? Do they have trouble losing weight? If so, these can come down to a gut health issue. And keep in mind, optimal gut health equals optimal aging. So when we address gut health, it's going to affect the immune system. It's going to lower inflammation in the body. It's going to help our pets live a longer life. And I want you to meet one of my adorable patients, Leo. So Leo came to me, had chronic GI upset. He was put on a prescription diet, of course. And unfortunately, it didn't do anything for him. He was still having episodes of bloody diarrhea. And his wonderful pet parents were like, I can't, there's something wrong. He's like 2 years old. This is ridiculous. Like, he doesn't feel good. We're spending $100 a bag on food that doesn't work. And I don't have other options other than putting him on steroids and immunosuppressives. And I can relate personally. That's exactly what happened to us on the human side. And the good thing is that I knew we could follow the blueprint. We could optimize his diet, reduce the toxins, get him on a species appropriate diet. And what we ended up doing is we put him on a balanced homemade diet. We supported his gut health with things like probiotics, digestive enzymes, soothing nutraceuticals like licorice, L-glutamine, and slippery elm to calm down and heal that leaky gut while we get proper nutrition into his body to support him better. And then we can also use things that are going to help naturally reduce inflammation. So supplements like omega-3, and then also adjusting the environment, looking at where our toxins coming from. getting a Berkey water filter or some water filter system for him to reduce the amount of toxins, and addressing the stress, the emotional health that was in the house. They just had a new baby, and God bless them. Having a new baby is stressful, right? So looking at some of the different ways that we could help Leo to naturally reduce his stress levels and allow him time to desensitize and kind of calm down. And I can tell you today, just after 4 weeks of implementing and following that program, he feels amazing. He's not on prescription food, and his pet parents are so much happier with how he's feeling and the energy, and they feel in control again. They can control what they're doing to help him. So where can you start with building a healthy bowl? You might be wondering, okay, that sounds great. What do I do, right? This is where if you are feeding a processed food diet, you can start small. This doesn't have to be the stress of an entire diet overhaul. You definitely can. You can go from kibble to a raw food diet. I recommend doing a slow transition to help prep that microbiome. But literally, all you have to do is 10% food toppers. This is fresh food on top of the kibble, because this is going to increase the amount of phytonutrients and antioxidants. Also, we want to be looking at the ingredient list, so we're removing inflammatory ingredients. You want to talk with your family on like what type of food's ideal for you, your pets, your budget, and work towards getting more fresh foods into your dogs and your cats' diets. Now, some of the whole food toppers that you can use: eggs are great, both dogs and cats. Mushrooms are great for both dogs and cats. Cats, you might be thinking, how the heck do you get mushrooms into them? Lightly cook it in a little bit of grass-fed butter, chop it up finely, and put a little tiny bit in. You don't worry too much about like, is this dose right? Am I going to cause harm? Literally start with a 1/4 teaspoon and see how your pets do. Sardines and water, great for both dogs and cats. You can actually cook up a bit of pumpkin. That's so much better than using rice if your dog has diarrhea. Great source of fiber, vitamin A, other nutrients, and it's much better than using rice. Dark leafy greens, broccoli sprouts, broccoli, cruciferous vegetables. I always recommend lightly steaming these, so that's going to help break down the cellulose, make it easier for them to digest. Blueberries, bone broth. Now keep in mind, blueberries, if you can get organic, because if they're not organic, they tend to be heavily sprayed. And yes, Amy, I love it. Avocado, my dogs love it. Avocado is not toxic to pets. Do not feed them the seed. That's an obstruction. Don't feed the skin. Avocado is actually a great source of healthy fats. And you can add that in. One of the other neat things too with cats that you may never have tried is if you have a picky cat, a lot of cats actually like melon. So you're not watermelon, but your cantaloupe or your green melons, and you can chop it up a little bit and start adding it to a more appropriate diet if you want to transition them. So I also wanted to show you my Moki. So what I did is some of the other ways that we can look at adding in fresh food into their diet. So this is a freeze-dried herring. They have mackerels. You can get freeze-dried sardines. And what I'm doing, so Moki is my cerebellar hypoplasia cat. So that's why he has a little head tremor. He kind of bounces around when he focuses. He's completely healthy, normal, other than that. But what he's doing is I'm holding it for him to help him eat it, because he sometimes has a harder time eating. And he's chomping and chewing on this. It's a great source of omega-3 essential fatty acids. And it's also a great source of whole food. And for him, because it's obviously it's a big size for him, he's a cat, this would be something I would do 1, maybe twice a week for him. And it's cleaning his teeth. So this is a natural tooth cleaner. So he does not like me brushing his teeth. So we can use whole foods. We can use raw meaty bones to help clean their teeth naturally. So we're using a brand, we get it from Dr. Judy Morgan, but just, make sure that they're sourcing them appropriately. You're buying them from good sources, but just something to keep it super simple for you. All right, let's talk about ingredient lists, because these are very important. This is like one of the most important things that I think every single pet parent should learn, where you turn that bag around, turn the can around, and take a look at the ingredient list. And so when we look at this ingredient list, I'm not a big fan of this, right? You probably agree, I'm guessing, right? Who else agrees with me that this is not high quality ingredients? So what we're seeing is some ingredient splitting, where all the ingredients are going to be based off of weight. And so your first few ingredients, I'm seeing some people agree, perfect. So your first ingredient typically is going to be the highest concentration in that food. So it's based off of weight prior to being cooked. So chicken is not dehydrated yet. So this is the moist content. Once we dehydrate that, we're going to lose about 75% of the matter, and it's going to drop really low. Next, we have ingredient splitting going on. So this is going to be whole grain, sorghum, whole grain wheat, soybean meal, corn gluten meal, brewer's rice. So you can see all of those high carb ingredients that are not super great, right? So this food is going to not be the best for your pets. I'm also looking for, you could go back to that list of ingredients that I showed just a few slides prior in our last section, and you can look for any preservatives and other inflammatory ingredients. And then when I look at this, so here's another reminder of some of those inflammatory ingredients. So GMO products, these are made to be tolerant to Roundup, so they can be heavily sprayed. Typically, these are going to be your corn, soy, and even beet pulp. And then we have non-GMO. Unfortunately, non-GMO does not mean no Roundup. We want to be looking for organic if you can. That's not possible for a lot of these, unfortunately. But the problem with the non-GMO is that they're the highest levels of glyphosate. These crops are sprayed at the end of harvesting to fasten harvesting, to dry them out. So these are going to be oats, wheat, legumes. How many foods are so high in these, right? Unfortunately, those are going to have a higher concentration of glyphosate. We want to be looking for carrageenan in canned foods, fish and cat foods, so your heavy metals, your preservatives again, and then of course, keeping an eye out for those non-specific meat meal, meat byproducts. So once again, just a different ingredient list here you can go through. We're seeing more ingredient splitting where it's separating out the corn, the wheat gluten. We're seeing wheat, so that they're being separated out to make it look like it's in less concentration, when in reality, we know what they're doing. When we know better, we can do better, right? Can I get an amen for that? Next, what we want to look at is that we can follow a plan for the best diet for supporting optimal gut health. So fresh, less processed foods will always support a more optimal gut health. Gut health is that microbiome, trillions of bacteria, protozoa, fungi cells that are going to support optimal health. We also want to make sure we're including good fat sources. So if you have a pet that is prone to dry skin, allergies, things like that, we need to ensure that we're getting a good source of omega-3s and that omega-3, omega-6 ratio is in the right ratio. We don't want it tilting to a more inflammatory state. We can include good protein with every meal. So what that means is non-processed proteins, and variety is key. You want to eat the same meal every single day of your life, and your pet should not eat the same meal for every day of their life. Obviously, if you have sensitive pets, there's ways around that to integrate in or figure out, okay, well, why are they sensitive? That's the bigger thing that I'd be going for. So that way you can introduce more variety into their diets. Veggies are okay. We want them less than 20% of the diet because of the antioxidants, phytonutrient content. So these are the good things that are going to support reducing inflammation, support how the cells are working, the cellular function, are going to support detox pathways to make sure we're getting toxins out. But also too, these act as prebiotics. Prebiotics are food for the good bacteria in the gut. So this is like the fiber. So that's really, really good. So you can also feed small amounts of sprouted organic legumes. So that would be okay to do. So biggest thing with legumes, if it's non-GMO, you need to make sure it's organic. Reducing, eliminating refined starches and sugars. Our pets are not omnivores. And dogs are facultative carnivores. Cats are obligate carnivores. Remember, they have zero requirements for carbs. These carbs that are coming in vegetable matter, we're using for antioxidants, phytonutrients, and as a food source for the bacteria. So keep that in mind. Now, these are some of the real food prepackaged brands that you can use. And these are all recommended brands that you'll see have gone through the pledge process for being transparent and using quality sources for their ingredients. So I recommend rotating and trying different brands. If home cooking's not right for you, or you can integrate in some of these, I always recommend having some of these in the freezer or in the fridge. So that way, if you don't have time to cook or you've run out of food, you still have a really good meal option for your pets. And a few meals a week is better than none to supplement a higher processed or a kibble diet. So it doesn't always have to be all or nothing. You can integrate in some of these brands and some of the fresh food options to help your pets. And these are some resources also that you can check out. They are all free resources on how to balance a homemade diet. Every meal doesn't have to be balanced, but we need to make sure we are balancing over time, so we're not missing out on things like calcium, magnesium, manganese, zinc, vitamin E, your iodine. So I use these all the time, and a lot of my clients and patients are being fed diets from these resources. And keeping in mind, when you are transitioning your pets to a new food, some people will get away with transitioning cold turkey 100% to a new food, but I always say slow and steady wins the race. I don't want pet parents to end up in the ER with blowout diarrhea, bloody diarrhea. And keep in mind too, especially for your cats, when you're transitioning them, time restricted feeding. So if you're feeding a kibble diet and they're free feeding, that free feeding is done. It's over. We need to put them to meal times. You can also sprinkle nutritional yeast. If you have a really kibble addicted cat, you can crush up kibble, sprinkle it on top. We can use some tasty treats on top of that to encourage them to eat the new food. Meat, baby food mixed into the new food can be an amazing way to get a picky pet or a pet that has a poor appetite to start eating again. And be careful with your cats. They can starve themselves to death and make themselves really sick. So you definitely don't want to go any longer than 3 days. I say 1 to 2 to keep it safe. And for your sensitive pets, these are the ones that are prone to GI upset. Transition them over 2 to 4 weeks. Sometimes with cats, I have a picky senior cat we adopted. It took months for us to transition her over to a freeze-dried diet. And once again, more tips for your picky cats, because these can be the ones that are the hardest to transition to a fresh food or a raw food diet, even going from kibble to canned. And you want to change the food roughly at 25% at a time. You can go slower if you need to, where you're just starting with like a teaspoon, but I always say 25%, 3 to 5 days. Then you're going 50-50 old and new for 3 to 5 days, 75%, 25% old, another 3 to 5 days, and then 100% your new food. And that tends to work pretty well. And keep in mind, once again, the food you eat can be either the safest and most powerful form of medicine or the slowest form of poison. And this is a great question, and a common mistake I feel like a lot of pet parents make. Is it okay to feed cats just raw meat? No, it's not. So that is not a balanced diet, and you're going to run into major health issues over the long term. So this is where I'd recommend going back through in the replay to take a look at some of those resources to check out, because there's a lot of great resources that teach you how to balance those diets. So you're adding in your calcium source, you're adding in things like kelp, you're adding in your organ meats in the right ratios, or there's premixes that you can use to help balance those diets. So if you have meat, there's premixes that are out there that are pretty good quality that you can mix in to make sure your cat's getting everything they need. So you definitely don't want to just feed like meat. And that goes with your dogs too. Meat and vegetables is not a balanced diet. That is very low in calcium, magnesium, zinc, vitamin E, manganese. There's no iodine in that. And here's the thing, it doesn't cause an issue right away. It's the long term that will create a problem. And then what happens is you tend to see like skin issues, and you're like, are they having allergies? But it's actually a nutritional deficiency, and it makes the problem a lot harder to deal with. So keep that in mind. It's not usually right away we see an issue, but we want to make sure we are balancing over time. So great question. So check-in time. All right. I want everyone here to comment with one thing that you can start doing today to improve your pet's bowl. This could be just like a simple like ingredient you're going to add in. Maybe it's like you're going to leave some like leftovers from your meal that you're going to use as a topper for your dogs. Maybe you're going to try adding in a sardine for your cat a few times a week. This can be super simple, or it can be as extravagant as like, I am massive overhauling my pet's food. I'm going to transition them to different types. I want to hear it or see it in the chat box, what you're going to do. So that way I can cheer you on and everyone else can cheer you on, because remember, one small step adds up to huge health changes over the long run. I love it, Nicole. I started adding broccoli and blueberries as treats. Yes, 100%. One of the other things that I love doing personally, just as a side note, is making broccoli sprouts, or we use little daikon radish seeds and we sprout those also. So I love it. I'm sprouting broccoli again. Yes, Patricia Jones, I love it. Elizabeth, I want to try that freeze-dried herring. Yes, it was. That's exactly what we used. And I didn't have sound on that video, but you could hear him crunching it. Adding gudrin, add an egg, sardines. Oh, it's coming in hot, fast. It's moving. Amy, organic blueberries. I love it. Yes, Pat, dehydrated raw plus extra sardines once a week. Helen, added vegetables as a topper to the kibble. Can you use frozen vegetables? 100%. Make your life as easy as possible. Tony, give my cat squash. Perfect. Want to add bilberries. Perfect. Those are really good for eye health. I love this. Thank you guys for sharing. I'm really excited also to hear how your pets love it. And perfect. Added fresh garlic today. I'm working on sprouts for the dogs. And I love that Loretta mentioned that garlic is not toxic to pets. It's a great insect repellent. We're in summertime here at the time of this recording. Perfect. You are all amazing. I love it. I love that the herring tip is also helpful too, because it was really fun getting that video with Moki. All right. We're into step 3, supporting a healthy environment. So we want to create an environment that reduces stress and toxins and focuses on positive emotional and physical enrichment so that your pets achieve longevity. So once again, bringing it back to the bigger picture, we just talked about gut health and nutrition. We know there's 70, 80% immune health connected to that gut. We've talked about environmental health and toxins. Now we're going to be connecting it with the physical health. We're going to be connecting it with the emotional health and giving you some tools and some neat videos and little things that you can do that are going to truly optimize some of these other pillars of health so that your pets have improved and increased longevity. So why is your pet's environmental health important? I hope you can answer that question now. I post another picture of my kitty, Stanley and Finn, sitting in that grass. Who knows if it was just sprayed because that was at our apartment. They love sitting out there. And oh my goodness, if I had known better, I could have done better, right? But now we know better. That's the key. And so with the environment, when we think about these different factors, right, we can address them. So toxins, cleaning products, chemicals gassing off furniture. If you just was talking to a client recently and moved into a new house and she's like, I know there's chemicals, like what do I do? And I'm like, this is where we use the detox. We use natural remedies to support those detox pathways because unfortunately that's just part of it. So pesticides, herbicides, EMFs, vaccinations, medications, preventatives, flea, tick, heartworm preventatives, stress. These are all so important to keep in the back of our mind. And they're not meant to stress you, right? They're not meant to worry you. They're meant to create an awareness so that we can start reducing them or support the body better. And once again, here's that reminder. Symptoms are not the first manifestation of a problem. They're the last straw when the body can't compensate further. So you might be here right now with your pets, wondering why something happened and how you didn't see it. So these are why those pillars of health are so important to helping your pets heal or maintain optimal health. So I don't want you to wait until symptoms occur to take action and start doing the work today. Those small steps add up. Who here has ever heard the phrase, just wait and see? Just wait and see. I hate that phrase. I don't want to just wait and see. I want to take action so I don't have to deal with the train wreck at the bottom of the cliff. Been there, it's not fun, and it's a lot harder to fix. And once again, I learned the hard way with my pets. All 3 developed cancer. I now know clearly, and I can see how the changes I could have made would have helped them avoid disease in the first place or help them live a longer life. Finn seems fine until he started having seizures, but we were surrounded by toxins. I didn't know about vaccine titers when I first came into practice, or that it was okay to make my pets food, or that I could use fresh food diets. And this is why this information is so important, so that this doesn't happen to you. But here's the thing, maybe you're already there. You have a pet who has a health concern or you're worried about them. The thing is I want to help you realize there's still so much hope. There are still so many other options, and there's a lot of keys and tips here to help you reverse the disease and help your pets feel their best. So doesn't this path sound so much better than being told there's nothing else you can do? Does anyone else agree with that, right? I love hope over hopelessness. So important. Now, I want to talk a little bit about, we're talking about environment, right? But there's a lot of causes of stress, especially right now. So many people feel really stressed, and we can be stressed for a lot of reasons. And our pets feel our stress and are intimately connected to us. So when we think about, once again, just like the toxins, where can stress come from? It can come from exposure to novel items, so new things like new people, new pets, new environments. Maybe you're moving house, separation from human family members. Maybe you have kids that were really close to the pets and they're going off to college or summer school or things like that. If we're using punishment techniques that like yelling at a dog that's kind of fearful, or cats do not respond well to negative training methods. If there's changes in the environment, the household rules, there's changes in routines. So specifically, people going back to work, right? Where they've been at home all the time. If there's loud noises like thunderstorms, fireworks, constant disruption when sleeping or eating, if there's lack of outlets for exercise, herding, running, retrieving, your cat's playing. Do they sleep all day? Cats get left out of this so much, and cats need engagement. They need physical enrichment. They need play. And don't forget, once again, our stress. So who here is guilty? I'm putting my hand up of getting stressed and saying, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'll get through it. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. And inside you're not fine, right? I've been there. I do it all the time. I'm fine. It's a phrase that my husband and I use, and he laughs whenever I say it because we both know what that means. And this is where my cat sitting next to me, I don't know if you can see her bed on my desk. This is where my senior cat sits most of the time when I'm working. If I am not addressing my stress and managing that, she will absorb it for me. Who here has a pet that has the same health problem as them? Stress comes down to a lot of that. They're here to help us. They're here to support us. I see people raising their hand. I would say about 75% of my clients, their pets have the same health issues. They have a sensitive stomach. They might be dealing with cancer. There's all sorts of ways our pets are connected to us. So don't forget about your stress. Now, emotional health factors. There's a lot. Remember, we go back to those 5 pillars of health. They're all interconnected, right? And so we see that gut health connection. A leaky gut can create emotional health issues. A dog that seems kind of crazy may not be that he's crazy. It could actually be that the microbiome's off. If our immune health is off, it can actually create an imbalance from our emotional health. We know environmental health plays a huge part. One of the crazy things with heavy metals, and every one of us is being exposed to heavy metals, is that they can actually cross the blood-brain barrier. And if we have aluminum, if we have mercury, that can create anxiety or health issues. So if we just put these pets on conventional drugs to treat the behavior problem, once again, we miss the root cause. And of course, this can affect or be affected by hormonal health, which has a direct connection to all those other pillars of health. So I've got some fun things for environmental enrichment, right? How do we get these cats engaged? How do we get these dogs doing different things? How do we enrich their environment without spending a ton of money and a lot of time? Everyone here may not have a ton of time or a ton of money, right? But there's simple things you can do. So this is actually from my main room in my house. So I'm gonna play this video, and I want you to look closely. There is a creature in there. And this thing, so we have a cardboard box that we converted, my wonderful husband converted into a little house that they love playing in. And so it just sits there. Obviously my house is not, a model home, but they love it. Our house is for the cats. And here's the thing. When I look at our cat, so that's Chico in the ripple rug. This thing is magic. This cat loves it. He sleeps in it. All the cats love it. He goes in there, he plays. We've got little mices that we put in there. You can use feather toys. So this is super easy. I'm hoping everyone can see his little paw. He's playing with a little mouse in there, and they just love it. Super easy way to help provide environmental enrichment that helps him relieve stress, get play. That's going to help his gut health and his overall physical health. Then we have my little Moki. So putting him on a harness and taking him outside. My cats are not indoor, outdoor without supervision. We live with too much wildlife. I am too much of a worry wart to release them out there and worry about them. So we go out on harnesses, and he can walk around the yard. He can sit in the grass. He can ground himself. He can self-select if he wants to. So that's just a simple, easy thing that you can do with your cats to provide more environmental enrichment. One of the other things that I love here is a herb garden. And so this is where putting down dried organic herbs, you can see Kiwi sniffing the valerian. It's about to turn into a crazy rolly mess. That's Moki, my cerebellar hypoplasia cat. So he was self-selecting another herb. I'm not sure which one he was self-selecting, but you can put down dried organic herbs for your cats to choose what works best for their pet, for their body. You can do this also with your dogs. So self-selection works for your dogs or your cats. I just don't have a video of a dog doing the self-selection, but ground valerian root, which Kiwi was self-selecting at the beginning, she's going straight to it. And Moki's enjoying something over on that other side. And a lot of times they'll actually eat it and ingest it. So I could sit here and watch them do their herb selections for hours. Really, really neat. So highly recommend doing that for your dogs and your cats and allowing them to choose what their body needs. And then we've got some other fun videos and ideas for your dogs. So this is when we still had Finn with us, and just a summer day, right? The dog loved water. We live in Colorado, very dry. Just putting out something, the dog had a field day. Like, this is simple, easy enrichment for him, something new, something novel. It's not causing harm. He gets to play with it. He's just loving it. So very easy. Also, going and hiking somewhere different with your pets, even just going to a park and sitting so they can get different smells. These are very simple, easy ways to provide environmental enrichment. Now, what about the immune health, right? I want to give you some tips to improve immune health, because immune health is kind of taking a beating because of the amount of toxins, the stress that we have. So once again, it's closely connected to gut health. So feeding a species appropriate diet, very important. Also, we want to reduce or avoid toxins and allergens if we can. We want to ask for vaccination titers. So this is for like dogs for distemper and parvo vaccinations rather than just vaccinating. And also assessing the risk for our pets. If you don't live in an area where there's a high incidence of leptospirosis, there is no need for you to give that vaccine. If you have an indoor only cat, they are at a very low risk of contracting an infectious disease and they don't go anywhere. So these are all conversations that need to be had with the veterinarian, and then not just give vaccines because we have them. We want to also be reducing stress in the environment and using supplements that help support optimal immune health. So things like your greens, so chlorella or spirulina, your omega essential fatty acids. So things like your krill or algae oil or your fish oil, like Nordic Naturals is a good brand, and making sure we're keeping our pets at an ideal body weight. If they're overweight, that fat can increase inflammation in the body. We don't want more inflammation, right? Because if we're getting all these little areas creating that chronic inflammatory state, it's more likely to lead to symptoms and the diseases we're trying to avoid, and it's going to lower the longevity of our pets, reduce the longevity of our pets. Now, some of the other top tips that I recommend to help improve your environment, right? How can we clean those up if we need to? I saw there's some people here that are on the like clean path, which is great, but sometimes there's little factors we can tweak and adjust to help. And so once a week, I always recommend anytime you're picking up a product, so laundry detergent, cleaning products, just take a look at the back and assess. You can go to the EWG Environmental Working Group website, and they have a database that you can they score a lot of these products, and you can score your products and see how clean they truly are. We want to make sure we're getting rid of artificial fragrances like plugins, candles, poor quality essential oils. Keep in mind, I said poor quality. I use tons of essential oils, and they can be used safely and effectively when we use them appropriately and we're using high quality. Taking your shoes off. This is very simple and it's overlooked by a lot of people. When we think about what you're dragging in on the bottom of your shoes, we're bringing the outside in. And if you just trek through herbicides and pesticides and chemicals and oils, now your pets, who are naked little beings, are going to walk around and groom themselves. So they're going to groom those chemicals off. So they're exposed to a higher concentration than we are. So just taking your shoes off, put them in a closet where your cats can't, where your dogs aren't going to integrate or interact with them, can make a big difference. And then this is 100% both dogs and cats. So for some, Catherine asked, is this info for cats? All of this information is for both dogs and cats. Especially if you're referring to essential oils. Essential oils can be safe for cats when used appropriately and the right dosages and the right brands. So I wanted to make sure I addressed that. And yes, Stephanie, we walk around in public restrooms in those shoes. Yes, think about it's pretty gross, right? When you start thinking about where we go. The other thing too is you can wipe down your pet's paws and their body after walks. This is going to help remove allergens and toxins, and you can make your own little like foot bath where you can put it in, and you can get it online. You can use it like an old coffee can, but wiping them down and getting those toxins off when you come in. This is also where you can have unscented baby wipes to just wipe down the paws and do a general rub down of their body, or just using a wet washcloth. So that's going to help. And then supporting those detoxification pathways with your pets, this will depend on your environment. This is why, once again, it's so important to be able to assess what's the risk factors, how much exposure am I getting? So that way, you know, do I need to do something every day or like 5 times a week? Or am I good just doing this once a month, maybe around the time of if you have to give a heartworm preventative, that's the time to do your detox to support if you have to give a chemical like that. Now, this check-in time, all right? This is our last check-in, all right? I want you to comment with one thing you can start doing today to help your pet's environmental health. So this can be any of the fun things, any of those videos, teaching your cat how to be on a harness. Maybe it's something where you're going to take your dog to a new place to go walking, or you're going to do a picnic with them for new, like, I love the term sniffari from Dr. Karen Becker. What are you going to start doing today to better support their optimal health? I love it. Natalie, more activities, right? Isn't it more fun when you get out and you start engaging with them? And I just love it. Today we took out Tico on the harness, and he was a little bit kind of crazy because there were lots of rabbits around, but it was fun and he enjoyed it, digging up the grass and just being out in the sun. Simple things like that can add up to huge changes to your pet's health. I keep saying that because we tend to overwhelm ourselves with thinking we have to do all the things at once. And we can start with just those small changes. Patricia, I love it. Wipe her down after walks. Sharon, ripple rug looks fun for Dory. Yes, ripple rug. The ripple rug. If you have a cat, get a ripple rug. We have 2. Lisa, remove my shoes. Pat, wash the paws after a walk. Those are things I wish I had done with Finn. That alone probably would have changed a lot of things. Just washing the paws down and doing those. I love it. Terry, wash paws after walks. Fantastic. Okay, so next steps. So I want you to take a moment, look at the list you've created as we've gone through this webinar. So you should have at least 3 tools that you can start implementing today to help get you started to helping your pets feel their best. So once again, drop your favorite one in the comments section to share with all the other amazing pet parents are here today. So what's your favorite thing that you're going to start doing that you're really excited about? Maybe it's the food, maybe it's just assessing like what's going on and being more aware of what's in the environment and what are the toxins and learning more about that. Maybe it's getting a water filter, or maybe it's doing a little bit more research so that you can better improve your environment. Whatever it is, just drop your favorite one in the comments section to share with everyone. And here's the thing to keep in mind as you go through this. It can feel really overwhelming, but when you have a partner to help guide you along the path, a holistic life becomes easier with every single step. So with my own family, we took one step each day and we built a foundation following these 5 pillars of the healthy holistic pet blueprint. So gut health, nutrition, immune health, environmental health. emotional health, physical health, each day getting stronger and less sick. And this is how my clients heal their pets, following this blueprint and going in depth with a step-by-step path forward. So here's something to keep in mind. I started with holistic medicine because my husband was sick. I had to go down the rabbit hole, hours and hours, years of research and additional certifications and degrees. You may have already had a pet with cancer or another disease, and you vowed to yourself to do everything possible to not go down that path again. Or maybe you want to do everything possible to keep your fur family healthy. Those small steps and support from people who have been there before are so much more important than the naysayers and the people who do not believe in your journey towards holistic medicine for your pets. Your time is now, and you need solutions now. So I want to have you meet some of those patients whose lives have been changed through holistic medicine with us. So this is Roper. How handsome is Roper? Roper came to me a hot mess. He had really dry coat, flaking skin, very low energy. He was very painful in his back. He was reactive. He had a lot of emotional health issues. And he had literally been getting chiropractic care every single week for over a year prior to seeing me for the first time. And his treatments weren't sticking. And so his mom's like, there's got to be something else. What is going on? So we literally followed these steps, that blueprint, and we looked at his immune health. We did additional testing to check thyroid. We did additional testing to look at gut health. We adjusted his diet. We looked at adding in supplements to support him. And the thing is that we found he was hypothyroid, which wasn't helping, and he had leaky gut. And we've now down this path of implementing and taking those steps, he's feeling so much better now. He's a brand new dog, and his coat is back to looking shiny and soft. He's able to have more energy and run around more. And mom was like, wow, I just thought he was like really lethargic and had no energy. And she's like, he's kind of crazy now. So hearing that and seeing his transformation is incredible just by following those pillars of health. There's also Reggie. So he's getting an acupuncture treatment. You'll see him sitting there. He's the chocolate lab. And he recently started having severe GI issues. He went on multiple rounds of metronidazole. And what we did is we took a look at what food is he on. We took a look at gut health and nutrition. And we were able to adjust his supplements and get him onto a fresh food diet. And he now loves his food. He's regained all the weight he lost. And he only gets a couple supplements to support his overall health, and he feels really good. And then there's my Tico in the middle. He came to us. We thought he actually had cancer. And we were able to reverse the inflammatory pathway. He had tons of inflammation. They literally thought that he had lymphoma. And we were able to support his body and reduce inflammation by getting him onto a raw food diet, using supplements to help calm down his immune system, support reducing inflammation, and he's completely normal today. No inflammation. So, and then Moki. Moki came to us when we rescued him, my little cerebellar hypoplasia cat, the one with his little tongue out. He's the most adorable little thing. He came to us with severe GI issues, chronic diarrhea. He was already on prescription food at 8 weeks old. We were told he had to stay on it. Of course, I didn't listen. And now he's on a raw fed diet. He gets some supplements, and we just did a test to test his like for leaky gut, and he's healthy. So these are ways we can use those principles to help heal your pets, or ideally maintain optimal health in the first place and improve longevity. So this is not just theory. So until now, I've only been sharing the system with my one-on-one clients like Roper, Comment, Reggie, Finn, so many more pets. And I've tested this entire system and proven its results with my own pets and clients. And at this point, I know I can make a greater impact by sharing it with more people, which is why I'm here today. The method's time tested and proven. Yes, holistic medicine can work to achieve optimal pet health. So I'm using these strategies for this webinar you're on right now, plus many others to help pets feel their best. So if you're thinking, I'm ready, where do I start? All you have to do is commit, focus and take action, which you've already done by taking time to be in this masterclass today. And I see you in the comments participating. So I just gave you this very brief glimpse at some of the pillars of health, but as I'm sure you can imagine, this is just the tip of the iceberg, right? This is just the very beginning. So when it comes to achieving optimal pet health, healing the body and preventing disease through our entire 5-pillar framework. So you have a choice, right? You can either continue to try to figure it out yourself, or you can get that proven success path. So if you're ready for the right path forward and you decide to work with me, nothing is held back, no missing steps. You just need to follow my lead step by step. And I'm on a mission to accelerate your holistic knowledge, remove those headaches and the bad advice that I was given throughout my veterinary career, and give you the exact process to follow to truly build optimal health and wellness for your dogs and cats. And that's what our Healthy Holistic Pet for Life blueprint includes. So I've essentially taken this entire process from start to finish and how to create optimal pet health through those 5 foundations that you can follow for all life stages for your dogs and cats. So how to use nutrition and navigate this confusing area, detailing what your pet needs to keep them safe and healthy in their environment while protecting gut and immune health, how to help your pet's emotional health and reset your pets through nutrition, environment, and supplements when needed, which will reduce your vet bills, your stress, and I put it all into this program with the support you need from a safe community and from me that's doing this every day, and I'm giving you access for life. So why? The biggest issues I see with the online pet health space is that there's so much information out there, each of them trying to teach an aspect of this intricate puzzle of holistic pet care. And you may be feeling really overwhelmed on what to do. Maybe you're in a Facebook group on why you shouldn't use conventional meds, but it's not helpful if you don't know how to safely and effectively use holistic medicine for your individual pet. Or maybe they're telling you not to give heartworm meds, and then all of a sudden your pet gets heartworm. Or your veterinarian is telling you raw food is toxic. That's super confusing, especially if you don't have the tools and studies to share with them to have an open conversation and empower yourself. So I wanted you to have the best possible launch pad for a healthy, long life for your entire fur family, because I've been through it. I'm coming at this with years of experience, training, and finding the things that actually work long-term with science versus trends. I do not want you to make the same mistakes we made years ago. I want you to have a fresh start. So these are just a few that have received some massive help and seen some massive transformations with their pet care. So life-changing health in just a few weeks. So Marissa, one of my many amazing clients, was frustrated with conventional options for her dog's bladder stones. She went through an expensive bladder surgery, was told to feed a prescription diet for life. So within weeks of following our blueprint, Oreos are feeling better than ever on a fresh food diet and supplements. And then Madison, one of our amazing members in our community. My favorite so far is Dr. Katie's always there to answer your questions. The community is there to help out. For so long, I've been trying to help my cat's guts and get them strong enough to be able to try wet food. I appreciate so much that Dr. Katie told me what to start out with, especially since after the gut seminar, I was overwhelmed, thinking I would never be able to help them. Now my babies are on the right track. And Bethany, another amazing member in our program, the biggest positive impact that I've noticed right now is my new confidence and knowing that what I'm giving him is right for him. I do not feel like I'm guessing. I have new hope and definitely feel that I'm doing something different to help Sparty. I've seen a positive change in Spartacus. And Noelle, I cannot recommend Dr. Katie more. After struggling for over a year to find someone who really cares about me and my furry best friend, I was blessed to find Dr. Katie. No other vet has looked into my dog's health history, really dived in with me about what's going on. She has so much knowledge. It's amazing. Don't walk, but run, because she will change your life and your pet's life. And one more member from our amazing community and program is Janie. So much great information. I will most likely be listening to this again before moving on to module 3. I ordered the animal biome tests. Both have been on digestive enzymes for a week now. So far, so good. I'm transitioning them off their prescription kibble diet. Thank you, Dr. Katie, for creating this group and sharing your knowledge to help so many of us pet parents. So my dream pet parent, the ones that I love working with, wants to do everything possible to achieve optimal health. doesn't want to wait for something to happen before taking action, knows there's more to medicine than just conventional medicine, is not afraid to ask questions and is kind to others, loves being a part of a community and learning. And their fur family's health is as important as their own, and they want all the options, and they're not afraid to try things that are a little comfortable. So I want to ask you, are you next? So the better the fit, the better the results. I'm building a legacy business. I don't want just any pet parent. I want the right pet parents who want results and are ready to get started. You can literally follow this program without my help to get results. However, this is an overview of our Healthy Holistic Pet for Life blueprint. You have lifetime access to this program. You get the 5-pillar framework, video content, and any updates and upgrades to refer back to at any time that literally give you the step-by-step how to implement those 5 essential pillars for health to help you transform your dogs and cats' overall health to improve their longevity. You also gain lifetime weekly 2-hour Q&As with me every single week to get more personalized guidance and care so you can get those results that you need and you want from day one. And you also have a private community that's moderated by me for further support, making sure the advice that's given is the right advice, and you get other help from other amazing like-minded pet parents like yourself. And there's also additional bonus webinars to give you more deep dive into certain areas and topics like food and thyroid disease and other areas to help support you along this journey. So I want to ask you, are you ready? So rather than feeling stressed, confused, overwhelmed, not sure what to start doing first, are you ready to feel supported, confident, at peace, and ready to take the next steps so that your entire fur family achieves optimal health and longevity? So if that sounds like you, if you want in, here's how the whole process works, right? So who's it for? This is for pet parents who are scared about making the same mistakes and they're worried about their pets not living a long life. Those pet parents, pet store owners, trainers, people who educate pet parents, veterinarians, vet staff who want to learn more about holistic medicine and have felt the frustrations of conventional medicine. This is for pet parents who want lifelong health for their fur family and not just quick fixes, who also understand that investing in your growth and education is the only way to truly grow and not stay stuck on that vicious treadmill of going to the vet over and over and over again for the same problem. And this is for those people who are action takers and are actually going to implement the information so that you can get the transformation that you want. So if this sounds like you, you're invited to set up a free interview to see if our holistic program is the right fit for you. I've personally set aside time to talk to you and see if we can help. And the call's approximately 45 minutes, and the intention is to understand your holistic pet care frustrations, your goals, and identify how and if we are a good fit to work together inside our premium Healthy Holistic Pet for Life lifetime program. So this is the link to schedule a call now. You also will have received already an email with a link directly to set up a call. And there's a lot of people on the Masterclass. So our schedule can only handle a limited number of calls a day. So make sure you schedule in. Like I said, it's a free call to learn how the Healthy Holistic Pet for Life blueprint works. Make sure you're a good fit for it. See what transformations, what goals you want, what you want to achieve, and get you started today. So keep in mind, your pet's health is an investment. It's not an expense. When you take the time like you did tonight to learn more, to start taking those next steps, to empower yourself, to get yourself going from feeling lost, feeling hopeless, feeling stressed, to feeling confident and supported and guided, that's where the transformation happens. That's where you regain your sense of peace. That's where you regain your hope, and you know that you're in good hands. So here's what I know to be true. I would not be where I am today without investing and working with the people who were where I wanted to be. So I want to ask you, where do you want to be in 1 year with your fur family's health? So I don't want you to have to wait until things broke, like what happened to me and my family. I'm giving you permission to take action today. So make sure you schedule a call, check your emails. You'll see the link there to schedule a call. And I look forward to talking to hopefully a lot of you about our program and how we can help. All right. So I promised the end of this, we would do a Q&A. So what I'm gonna have you do is, I know there were a lot of comments in the chat box, which I truly appreciated everyone commenting. Drop your Q&A, drop your questions in the Q&A box. I'm gonna end the slideshow and bring up the, let's see. Okay, perfect. Can you guys see me, or are you still seeing my screen? Actually, let me stop my share. Okay, perfect. Can you guys see me? Just in the chat box, let me know if you can see me okay with my screen share done. All right, I think there's a bit of a delay, so. Perfect. Okay, thanks, Tony. Thanks, everyone. All right, let's go through. I've got a couple questions here. Like I said, drop your questions in the Q&A box, and I'll take a few questions to finish out our webinar today. And like I said, also, if you go to your email, if there's any problems with scheduling a interview with me, just send us an email at info@thenaturalpetdoctor.com too. All right. Amy, I see a question in the chat. I'm going to answer this first. Do most conventional vets understand how holistic modalities work, or was your additional education further a desire to learn how you truly understood natural medicine? So we do not learn this in vet school. That's why it can be so frustrating when you go to the vet and they look at you like, I don't know, I have no idea. And then there's the like fear and terror, like, I can't tell you to do this because I don't know, and you do it wrong and it causes harm. Like, there's so much fear around that, and it's so frustrating. So all this additional knowledge and education came after veterinary school. And unfortunately, I was one of those that found it because I had to, where my husband's health broke and we were faced with, do we go on strong immunosuppressive drugs that literally one of the side effects was death, or do we go down the rabbit hole, start learning? And we came across essential oils, all sorts of food therapy, Chinese herbal medicine, supplements, that holistic approach, right? Where we're looking for the root cause versus just treating a symptom. And that's where I realized at that time, I could do so much better for my pet patients. And so I became certified in food therapy, Chinese herbal medicine, your acupuncture, learned all about essential oils, have been using those in my house and for my patients for like 7-8 years now. And it's a game changer. But unfortunately, conventional medicine it's limited, right? There's a time and a place, but most vets, unless they either something happens to them, like my story, or they realize there's a better way because they're seeing a lot of their patients be healed by holistic medicine, they just don't go down that path. All right. So once again, make sure you drop your Q&A, your questions in the Q&A box so I don't miss it. Perfect. And Pat, no, it doesn't matter where you live. We have pet parents from all over the world that are a part of our community in that Blueprint program. And what's neat is the Q&As are all recorded. So you can submit questions ahead of time and listen to the recordings, and it's all timestamped. The goal of the program is to make it as easy as possible for you to get the transformation that you want, right? So if you want to make sure your pet is healthy, if you've been in a situation where you've had a health issue prior and you're like, I don't want to make those mistakes ever again, I need to make sure I'm on the right path and we're doing everything and I need some guidance, this program is perfect for you. So it doesn't matter where you are. We have people in Singapore, we have people in Australia, we have people in New Zealand, we have people in Mexico, we have people in Ecuador, we have people all over, and it doesn't matter. There's no limitation. So we're breaking down the barriers of the world essentially to be able to provide holistic health information, tools, and support to pet parents across the globe. All right, I hope that helps, Pat. All right, Terry, let's see. I give my dog several herbal teas. I love it. I love teas. I don't know, Terry, if you've ever listened to me before or heard me talk about teas. So such as hawthorn, mullein, marshmallow, burdock, nettle, and more. Sometimes I even blend several together. Is this safe to do? Are there lectins in these types of teas and not safe to give? They're all caffeine free, of course. I love using teas because it's a really easy way to integrate in to our pets' lives. So one of the other things too, Terry, I briefly touched on self-selection and how you can use that in dogs and cats. I showed a picture or a video of the cat self-selecting dried organic herbs. So teas are herbs. So if you're ever worried, you can actually do the same thing I showed with my cats, where you can put down a towel and you can do a teaspoon of dried organic tea and put it down and see what your pet does. You can also use hydrosols, or you can even use essential oils where you're putting a drop in a little bowl of water and allowing them to choose what they want. Maybe they sniff it, that's self-selection. Maybe they lay by it, that can be self-selection. Maybe they drink it, that's self-selection. But your teas, especially the ones you listed, are great. I always recommend rotating them too. So if you are using burdock for your detox or support liver health, rotating that can be a good one. You can even rotate it with dandelion is another great option too. We talk a lot about teas in the program because it's like, I just love talking about teas and utilizing them for dogs and cats. So you should be fine doing those. Obviously, I don't have the full information, but these would be questions that I'd be able to answer in the program too. And then Terry, is alkaline water safe for dogs long-term? I do check the urine pH several times a week. So you're doing the right thing. So each pet is different, and keep in mind too, gut health, their immune health, and also the food that these pets are feeding. And if they're on additional supplements, can affect the urine pH. This is why we see issues with urinary crystals, bladder stones, things like that. And so if you're giving a different type of water, there's lots of different types of waters. I've seen things about structured waters, alkaline water. I've done YouTube videos on water quality too. Checking the urine pH is like the smartest thing and easiest thing that a pet parent can do. And you can order test strips online, so you don't have to go through your vet. And that way you can make sure that the pH is staying around that 6.5, 7 mark. It's not going too high, it's not going too low. And that could set your pet up for crystals or even bladder or kidney stones. So yeah, as long as you're checking urine pH, I have no issue with that. So let's see, Peggy. Okay, what kinds of bowls are healthy to feed from? My dog eats from a plastic chambered bowl because he eats way too fast. Okay, so this is a great question. Plastic, not a big fan. We actually switched to the Mine. So Mine is an M-I-N-E, pet platters. We use those for our cats. I would have used it for Finn, but it wasn't around for Finn. And it looks like plastic, but it's actually not. It's like a bamboo, and it's a low chemical platter. Essentially, it has little nubs, and there's a lot of science behind it on that. It encourages like a normal eating pattern. What you could always do, Peggy, I'm not sure what type of food you're feeding, but if you are feeding a fresh food diet, you could always freeze it on that to slow them down too. But this is where your like licky mats may be helpful. But ideally trying to get away from your plastic. You could also put them in your West. So I use a lot of the West Paws plastic containers where you can freeze food in that, and that way you can feed them. So if you're feeding obviously like a kibble diet, my first thing would be see if you can transition, if it's possible, to a more fresh food diet, and then use some of these other options that are going to be slow the pet down so they're not eating as fast. So I hope that helps. And Echo, yes, Echo, it's so good to see you. My dogs both love the Mine platters. Yeah, they're great. Cats and dogs can use them, so they're really cool. So definitely check those out. All right, Joanna, do you still recommend Open Farm food as a safe company for wet and dry food? Yes, 100%. So they're a good company. Stephanie, can you recommend a good source for dosing supplements for pets? Regular vet doesn't always, depends on the supplement. So it depends on what they're on. That's a very more individualized question. So I can't unfortunately answer that specifically, but Stephanie, this is where too, like members in our blueprint program, if you have like your pet's on this for this reason and you want to add in a supplement, these are great questions that you can ask me personally in our weekly Q&As. So I have a better idea of what's going on with your pet, so I can help guide you. And then that way you can get help and start your pets on a holistic approach rather than having to wait or your vet just not knowing. Terry, is there a specific raw diet breed specific? No, because the breed specific foods are actually a marketing scam, unfortunately. And I bought into it. So Terry, this is a great question. So I had German Shepherd Finn, right? And I remember back in, I think it was probably vet school, maybe like the first 1 or 2 years, and they came out with a German Shepherd breed specific food. And I was like, I have to put Finn on that. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, why did I do that? I was paying more money, and it was just a marketing like scandal essentially for them to make more money. And all I had to do was increase like joint support supplements, because we know that German Shepherds are prone to hip dysplasia, elbow dysplasia, osteoarthritis, aging changes, right? But if we're feeding them fresh food or like a less processed diet, they're less likely to have inflammation in their body. And so it was just, yeah, do not worry about like breed specific. We would be looking at, and this is the tools that you gain in the program where, okay, through these different life stages, these are supplements that we'd want to be adding in. Or if your pet's doing this and we need to support the body more additionally in these areas, that's where you can individualize your treatment. So it's definitely something where you can, don't waste your money on breed specific marketing. It's especially if it's a kibble diet. Marsha, are there any greens other than those related to onions which should not be given to dogs? So your garlic's fine in the onion family, but onions are not okay. You want to avoid your grapes, your raisins, macadamia nuts, once again, your avocado pits. If you're feeding fruits that have pits, so your peaches, your plums, your nectarines, make sure you're removing the pit. But otherwise, a lot of these greens are very safe for them. So you can mix around like arugula, your lettuces. If you're worried about your pet's sensitive, this is where steaming them to break down the cellulose, the plant wall, will make it easier for them to digest. Tony, how often should you rotate a cat's protein? Is it better to feed a single protein, or can you use more than one at a time? So my cats get different food almost every single day. And there's studies that show if you feed the same protein if the study was done over 2 years, it increased the risk of leaky gut and food sensitivities. So this is where variety is really, really important. And so depending on your cat, depending on how picky they are, depending on the GI sensitivity, right? This is where you can rotate different proteins and you're getting different nutrients too. That's why variety is so important. You're going to get different nutrients, nutritional content by rotating those different foods. So if your cat can tolerate it and they do okay with changing the protein or adding different proteins together during like one meal, that's okay to do 100%. Just depends on the pet. Loretta, would your program work for people who are low income, may not be able to pay for a lot of testing? So the program, because it is a lifetime program with a lot of support and guidance and help and the tools, the program itself, like once you pay for it, it's paid. There's no further payments. It is a higher end program. But Loretta, if you're worried about that, or that you don't have to do the testing, that's the thing. Like the testing is there if you want to, but by implementing like fresh food, by implementing supplements as needed, or just making sure that you're reducing toxins and supporting detox pathway, not every pet that comes through has to go through testing. And the testing is not done through us. It can be done through your veterinarian if it's a need. So this is where it is a lifetime program. So it is a higher value program. But that's something where if you feel like it's a really good fit and you want to like get in and get started and there's other alternatives, you could always book a call and see how it works, how it works for you, and then we can go from there. Lisa, what are your thoughts on Smalls food? Do you recommend? Yes, Smalls is good. So definitely. And here's the thing too, when you are using some of these other brands, like I rotate different fresh and frozen and canned foods. So raw is what I meant by frozen, with my cats. And that way we're getting variety. And if there's ever any recalls, as you saw, like today, Freshpet had a recall. I don't recommend them anyways, but this is going to help avoid an issue over the long term, especially like vitamin D tends to get recalled a lot in some of these big brands, and that can kill pets and it can cause a lot of harm. So by rotating and using different varieties, different companies, you're less likely to have a problem like that pop up. I use Pure and Rocketo. Are they okay? I don't recognize those brands, Pat. It doesn't mean, so here's my disclaimer. Just because I've never heard of a brand doesn't mean it's bad. But what I'd be looking at, are they doing testing? Who's making their food? Because there's a lot of companies, I'm guessing those are actual pet food companies, not supplements. There's a lot of people making pet food. So this is also where it's really nice, where you're feeding something or you see a new company pop up or a new supplement and you're like, ooh, this sounds really good. And I could be like, oh, I've never heard of it. Let me do some research. Let's get back to, and we'll teach on that in the community area and guide you. You guys can hear me okay, right? I got a message from Catherine saying you couldn't. Can you hear me? Just drop a, yeah, we can hear you for yes. Okay, perfect. Okay. Did you say you like fresh pet or not? No, I don't. It has lots of mold recalls and then it just got recalled again. I don't like it. So not a fan of fresh pet. It's gross. So there's better quality ones that you can feed. Hope that helps, Gudrun. Okay. And then I saw Andrea, good question about waters, reverse osmosis, UV filter, alkaline water system for cats. Yes, this will be the thing though, if you can test the urine pH, because so many cats are prone to struvite crystals, you definitely would want to do that if you can. A good way to do that is getting the non-absorbable crystals and seeing if your cat will use that. It can be a little bit harder, or making sure you're testing at the vet. Vet can collect a urine sample sterilely. Yes. So not ideal, like having to take your cat in, but going in for your annual wellnesses or your 6-month check, you could always see if they could check the pH of the urine for your cat, just to make sure you're not creating a problem, right? Because we don't always know, right? I hope you guys got that from the webinar. We don't always know if something's happening, and we can do a lot to prevent that. We don't want to see symptoms. We don't want a name to a disease. That means we're this far along versus back here, where it's a lot easier to change and make those implement changes and get results right away and fix the problem. All right, let's take one more, because you guys, I think we're going on 2 hours. You are troopers. I'm glad I haven't lost my voice either. We've done a few presentations the past few days. So grateful, so grateful I still have my voice to be here with all of you. All right, Janine, let's see. Have a young cat, 3 years old, who had rickets as a kitten. Lately seems grumpy. She moves well, jumps, play, but not sure why is overly happy. I'm guessing unhappy. Any recommendations? It's like she's expecting to feel pain. Oh, you're in Geraldine, South Island, New Zealand. I've got tons of family in Akaroa, New Zealand. So I've spent a lot of time there. Janine, so my first questions would be, especially if we know there was a bone issue, this is where I'd be going. We're seeing a behavior change. Cats are really good at hiding pain, but I wonder if there is some degree of pain. So first steps first would be, yes, Loretta, slippery elm, 100%. I usually add that into my tea. So I appreciate that recommendation for my throat. For anyone here, sore throat, slippery elm. So anyways, Janine, so for worried about pain, this is where I think, okay, we can use natural anti-inflammatories. So if we're not using joint supplements, if we're not using omega-3s, this is a great time to add these in to support the body. We can also look at, well, what are we feeding to make sure we're feeding a balanced diet? If our kitties are on a kibble diet and we're worried about inflammation, pain, any type of disease, my first goal is always to see if we can get that cat over to at least a canned food diet. So following some of those tips that I talked about to help transition kitties that are on kibble over to a more species appropriate diet. Because even more so than dogs, cats should not be on kibble. It's the worst food for them. And sometimes they may be really hard to transition, but that would be number one. How can we transition to a better food diet? Add in some of those natural anti-inflammatories. You have access in beautiful New Zealand to green lip mussels, and those are a great food source. So you can steam those up and you can cut them up and put it into the food, or you can get the supplement form also if you want to. But some source of omega-3, your glucosamine, chondroitin. We use a lot of CBD here in the States. And that's a really great natural anti-inflammatory. We didn't even talk about the endocannabinoid system. There's entire videos on the endocannabinoid system and how is that connected with the immune system and gut health, and how you can actually utilize your CBD and other supplements like PEA to help modulate that to naturally reduce inflammation. So those are some of the tools you would gain from the program also, but I'd be starting there with your kitty. Tony, did you say that cantaloupe and green melons are good for cats? They have a weird obsession with them. So they can be a helpful way to transition a cat from kibble to a raw food. I had a video of Moki eating a melon because I was like, oh no, it doesn't work. And we had some green melon and he like wanted to eat the entire thing. So obviously it's higher sugar. It's not a species appropriate diet for a cat. But if you're looking at transitioning or hiding supplements, or you have like a little pill or something that you need to hide, you could potentially tuck that into the green melon too and use that to help get medicine into them if you need it. Terry, great question. Can you use both fish or krill oil, or is that an overload? So you typically are going to use one or the other. You can always rotate. You don't need to double up, and you don't want to double up. Over time, it can cause bleeding disorders, things like that. It can cause GI upset. So you don't need to use a lot, especially if there's not a health condition, you're only using it to like support, optimize health. There are some conditions, things like cancer, skin disease, where we tend to use a higher dosage, but you don't need to use both together. They're good omega-3. And then there's other ones that you can alternate to. Adored Beast has a Sea Safe one that's an algae oil. So for pets that are sensitive to fish and can't have that, that's a great alternative for your pets with food sensitivities. So hope that helped. Awesome. No, Terry, you'd be fine. Extacifin. Sorry, I was wondering about. No, you'd be fine. That's no problem. All right. Sharon, did you post in the Q&A or did you post in the chat? I just saw your comment. I don't see a question in the Q&A from you. I'll give you a second. Yeah, there's a lot in the chat, Sharon. I will give you a second to type it into the question and answer area if you can. Because there's a lot of comments there, so it's really hard to go back through those. But anyways, so for anyone who's wondering if it's a good fit, if the program you're looking for additional guidance, help, like I said, lifetime support. So it's for your current pets. There's no limitation on your pets either. So there's a lot of people here who have multiple pets and you can ask questions on any of them. It's for your whole entire fur family to get guidance and support. Because here's the thing, we want all of them to live a long and vibrant life. And also too, most of us here are probably going to have other pets in the future at some point. And this is where it's nice to be able to have guidance and support for them too. So it's lifetime access, lifetime support. You get the guidance, the education to dive into as you can with your schedule. And then you have the 2-hour Q&As with me each week and the support in the community that I moderate too. So a lot of people are getting really good results and have absolutely loved being a part of the community and being a part of a safe place to ask questions. And there's never any judgment and get guidance and help there too. All right. And this will be sent through also. All right. So you'll be able to watch the replay and I look forward to talking to a lot of you. Once again, check your emails. I will go through and I'll do some editing of this and then resend out the replay. You'll also get your simple guide to nutrition, like I promised. So that'll be included with the replay. So double check for all of that. And I look forward to hearing your the key points, your key takeaways from the presentation tonight. And once again, I truly appreciate you showing up, participating, being present. And I know that once again, those small changes, those big changes that you are planning on making for your pets will make a huge difference in their overall longevity. So I truly appreciate each and every single one of you from the bottom of my heart. And if this is the first time meeting me, I welcome you in with open arms. I hope you decide to be a part of our community. And I look forward to talking with a lot of you. So have a good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Katie Woodley, the Natural Pet Doctor. Take care.